Hello and welcome to another episode of Moments of Consequence, our battle report series. Episode 21 will feature the second battle of Casey's and Nick's two-part battle. They got together and played two battles together, recorded both of them. This one is Wood Elves versus Chaos Dwarves, Casey's Wood Elves versus Nick's Chaos Dwarves. It will be Take the Center with Displaced Deployment, 2,000 points. We hope you enjoy.
Hello, this is Nick recording. I know, so strange. So this is the beginning of turn one. Chaos Dwarves actually won the roll-off for once. Very exciting. Natural 6, thank you, Mr. Hashut. So for today, I'll be battling Casey and his Wood Elves. He's got quite a lineup. He already did his Vanguard move, so he's got some Glade Riders, some Piggies with a Chariot, and there's a hero in the Chariot. He's got some Warriors, a Mage with these cool little archer guys on the hill here. Falconers, we'll see how they do. War Dancers, War Hawks, not to be outdone. Some Kitties in the woods, and then also another Chariot. On my side, I have a big old blob of Orcs with a hero from the Chaos Warrior racial lineage. Some Hobgoblin Wolf Riders. They do not have bows. They're the only one of two units that are proxied. They actually have shields and light armor. We have a unit of Blunderbusses with a cool spellcaster and a spell familiar. A bulwark of 24 Hobgoblins with crossbows. Another unit of Wolf Riders. And then we've got these two Earthshakers who will hopefully shake it up a bit. So let's see what happens. Holy cannoli. So we've had some events happen. I did get to go first, but my Earthshakers, one scattered and the other one I overestimated. I actually guessed the correct and then I second guessed, so never second guess. My shooting was pretty effective though. These crossbowmen, or cross hobgoblin men, with the banner of sneakiness were able to kill 4 falconers. Over here, the elves fired against my unit of orcs, but they have the Shroud of Obscurity, so only 2 died. Oh no! Otherwise, mostly just moving and positioning for next turn, and we'll see what happens. Oh my goodness, what a bloody turn. So, we'll start with what happened on the Chaos Dwarf side. One of my Earthshakers went wide and missed the Mage, which was a little bit of a bummer, but Casey was pretty excited. The other one did hit, and there's just not so many Falconers anymore, is the short answer there. Over here, the Wolf Riders ran up here to jam up a Chariot. The Hobgoblins thinned the ranks of the Birds. He got very lucky with his Champion's armor saves. Over here, we cast 2 spells. The first was Dispelled. That was, I think it was like Shards of Light or whatever. Deathly Shards, excuse me. On this unit, it was Dispelled. And then over here, the dreaded Dwellers Below took out, what was it, 5?
Yeah.
5 archers. And over here, not much in terms of movement, just kind of, wiggling around, seeing what's going around, squirming through the woods, doing sneaky Chaos Dwarf stuff. So we will see what happens next. All right, bottom of the second. So what happened? Kitties charged in, but surprise! A Hobgoblin Assassin came out, chopped them up, and then the unit did the rest, wiping out the unit. Over here, these guys fled from the predictable charge. The Warhawk flew over here. The Falconers turned tail. My Wolf Riders got shot a little bit, but they passed the panic test. And then, what was it? That Chariot, I'm sorry, the Chariot's dead, right? We crevassed it. Isn't that what happened?
No, I got Dispel Scroll.
Oh, you're right, Dispel Scrolled. Dispel Scrolled got pulled. I then cast Flock of Doom, but unfortunately, Natural Dispel stopped it. However, the Amber Spear was consumed by a Spell Eater Shield and no longer exists. So we'll see what happens now. All right, let's see. So it is top of the third, just ended. Some things might have happened. A Chariot got shot to death via crossbows. The Hobgoblins were very pleased. My Hobgoblin Wolf Riders ran over here. They're rallied. They just ran. These guys repositioned. This unit moved up a little bit. Also, some fun stuff did happen though. So the Earthshakers, kaboom, killed 2 and froze them, and this one, kaboom, froze that unit as well. No one died, but you don't need to kill. You just need to shake them. So that's what's going on over here. There's a little bit of a concerning situation here. These guys are rallied, however, hooray. And we'll see what happens. Oh, also, some crazy stuff happened. We cast Deathly Shards, which killed some of these elven archers. And then, believe it or not, a Chalice cast Dwellers Below on these pigs, and the pigs just rooted their way out. They were all fine. They all rolled below a 4. It was crazy. So one Elven Beastmaster did not, but he's a loser. We'll forget about him. But the rest were very successful in their attempts. All right, so what happened? Warhawks charged over here. Or sorry, not Warhawks. Yeah, Warhawks. They charged, and they got killed by the Wolf Riders. The War Dancers moved in here. This chariot charged. It killed 4 orcs, but the combat was drawn. These guys moved up here, and then a lot of spells went off, which was bad. So these guys have the Dance of Despair on them, and then also the Writhing Worm is cast on my Sorcerer. So this is going to be difficult to get out of. All right, welcome back. We just had some rules reading and interpretation, and I think we came to the right conclusion. But here's what happened. On this turn, we will start, I guess, with shooting. Or I guess we'll start with movement, because we're good boys. They moved up. They moved up. He moved up. Then we can go to... Oh, and they moved against their will because of the Dance of Despair. Yep. However, since this guy was in a cocoon, we read the rules. This is the part where we do interpret, because we weren't sure if he died or if he was just left there. But it says he's out of the game and cannot move. So we just said that he was left there, cocooned on the ground, and the models kept moving. For shooting, guess weapon ranges. 1 earthshaker killed 7 elves, and they are now frozen. The other fired, killed only 1, but that's okay. They are frozen too, so don't need to worry about them for a turn. Magic, I was able to dispel Dance of Despair, thank goodness. But, yeah, my guy's still cocooned on the ground. All right, and I think that's it. Okay, turn 5. Let's see. So both things happened. I attempted to charge the pigs. They ran away and then rallied. These guys came around and shot at me and killed a few guys. Over here, the War Dancers charged in. They killed a guy. Combat was tied. These guys got shot and ran by falcons. These fired. 1 hit the Lord's unit again. Kapow. The other one scattered and missed. And over here, he is still a cocoon. And yeah, I think that's it. All right, so that's the end of 6. Because of some fast cav shenanigans, these Glade Riders were able to get to the objective and help hold it. These 2 units together count as 2 versus my 1, so it is a victory for the Elves. I already congratulated Casey off screen or off camera. Yeah, I had some very, very bad luck for drawing. I only had a drain magic, and then I drew for 3 magic turns. I drew only power cards, so I couldn't try to dispel my guy, who was in the Amber Worm, so he was just pretty much out of the game. But it was a very, very close game. Also, this combat here ended due to Shadow's Coil, naturally. But yeah, very, very close. If this, if 3 more guys had been killed by blunderbusses, that would have been game. It would have been a draw instead. Or if the boars if they had panicked from the shot, but it just didn't happen. So that is it. That's the game. Hey, we're back for the post-game wrap-up. We forgot to do it after the game because our stomachs were rumbling, so we went and got some food, and then we had this conversation twice, once here, and then once at the restaurant while we were waiting for the food. So we are pretty well-versed in what happened and ready to talk about it. Casey, if you want to start off talking about your thoughts regarding the Wood Elves, kind of Chaos Dwarves in general.
Yeah. Well, so the battle ended up with like a 6-3 victory for me, which was basically entirely because I was able to snag the objective, where Nick actually killed significantly more of my army than I did of his. But it was an interesting matchup because Chaos Dwarves, almost all the Dwarven units are toughness 4, so like my shooting was not very good. And then the way that Nick constructed his units was like really, they were all tough nuts to crack. Yeah. And they're really like well built units, the hobgoblins with crossbows with whatever the banner is called.
Banner of Sneakiness. So for those who don't know, I believe it's 50 points. It's a hobgoblin only banner, so settle down before you go crazy. But it's you get to reroll all hit rolls for shooting and melee. And what I like to do is I take a big unit of 24 hobgoblins with crossbows, and it's just a really nasty unit. Like, I mean, in this game they took out a chariot by themselves. If it wasn't for some very lucky saving throws, the Warhawks would have been taken out as well in a turn. They could just really lay down the hurt. When I was playing against Jake's Goblin army, they were just almost deleting units per turn. And then I always take a Hobgoblin champion with a natural dispel on him to make the unit really annoying to deal with.
I didn't even get to experience
You didn't even
that.
get to, but it was waiting there.
And you had the assassin.
Yes, and my assassin, who just ruined the cat's day. They charged, Casey was very confident, and then got assassinated.
Yeah, so that unit was really nuts and like very good at what it did and also pretty well protected.
Uh-huh.
And then you had the unit of orcs with the hero who had the spell eater shield. And then they had the banner where it was always 5s to hit them. So it's just like a really tough unit.
Mm-hmm.
And then the blunderbuss unit with your wizard lord had the banner of missile protection, and they were all toughness 4 and
Heavy armor.
heavy armor. Yeah, it was just like I had a hard time killing anything except the hobgoblins on wolves.
Yeah,
which were the only units I actually killed.
Yeah, that's correct. And they ran off the board, both of them. Yeah, I did make one change to my list, was I took the banner of missile protection because I knew there was going to be falcons and also just wood elves, blanket statement. So I took that. I think it was the right call. I did get kind of unlucky, unfortunately, with my dispel cards. There were 3 magic phases, I think, in a row where I just drew power cards, and I could not stop things, and that kind of created a cascade that caused a lot of problems. Casey's right, though. Like, if it had been a turn 5 game, it would have, I think, been a draw. But we went to turn 6, and his fast cav were able to get there because, 18-inch move with fast cav just...
I could have gotten there turn 5. I just didn't even think about it. I was lucky we rolled to turn 6 because I was like, oh yeah, I got to get back to the center.
Yeah.
Hold the center.
I also, Casey got very lucky. I finally landed a earthshaker shot that he did not look out, sir, on his general, and I rolled a 1. But that would have really affected the panic test, which was the biggest problem I think I actually had this game, is that Casey's leadership was on point, and he did not fail a single panic test. And, when you're, like, I'm not, like, completely erasing units. I was able to really, delete a chariot, almost completely delete the Warhawks, and then when they charged, they just really weren't strong enough to hold their own at that point. But I caused panic tests.
A lot of panic tests.
Maybe 2 or 3 times a turn, and everybody passed. And if just one had failed, it could have really upset his line.
Yeah, I think like if there were multiple panic tests on my Lord's unit and then the unit of
I think every turn
Glade Riders. Yeah, so like if either of them had failed, that would have been a big problem. The other units were like a little less important.
Less worrying for sure.
Those, because they were also earthshakered, so they would have just been completely destroyed.
Earthshakers are incredible. I think they're kind of an auto take. Believe it or not, I did have a plan to not take any. And I was instead going to take a Lord on a Taurus, and because I knew there was going to be flyers, and I was like, he might take a Dragon Lord. I don't know what's going to happen.
It was under consideration.
I could feel it. I sensed that disturbance. I was like, there's a Dragon Lord in the midst here. But I'm glad I didn't. I think the only thing that I really would have changed is, as much as it pains me, normally my unit with missile protection, which was the right call. That unit shrugged off God knows how many Flocks of Doom and Falcon attacks and just bow shots. Like, they were just champs. The Lord got targeted by Falcons a couple times, and then Flocks of Doom, and he was like, okay, I need to save 8 wounds, and he did.
I did get him down to 1 wound, but then he just kind of died.
Then he cocooned.
he was, he didn't even die. He was just like cocooned on the ground, and I couldn't. That was another thing I was like a little unclear on the rules. So he was in the Writhing Worm.
Yeah.
And then there was the Dance of Despair was cast on the unit. So they had to move, but we kind of determined by the wording of the Writhing Worm in the new magic that it says he's out of the game.
Effectively out of the game.
So we're like, okay, well, he's not dancing if he's out of the game.
Right.
He's in a cocoon.
Yeah.
So he just got left behind. But then we're also like, well, does that mean I can't like hurt him?
Right. Because if he's out of the game, you can't charge him, you can't shoot him.
So it was a little...
I really wish you had shot him with a magic missile, because then I could have escaped.
Oh. Yeah.
And then he would have been, woohoo, I'm free, and
Yeah.
whatever. But no, didn't happen. And that's okay.
Well, because I thought I couldn't hurt him.
Well, you couldn't. But also, like,
Yeah.
you know, I was like, maybe he'll do it, maybe he won't, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the only thing that I would have done differently is I usually include a natural dispel on all big chunk units, and it always pays off. And I think I was like, well, you know, he's got the missile protection. I've got dispel scroll, and I did use the dispel scroll for the same spell. I mean, I think it was the worm, the amber worm. But in the future, I think you need to have a natural dispel on a unit. There's no other way around it. Magic is just
where
too
your
powerful.
wizard is, like, your wizard is gonna get targeted.
Yeah.
And it's not always gonna be magic missiles.
Yeah, that is one advantage. Lamasu have natural dispel, but it's also like a 500 plus investment. So that's something I'm considering. I don't know. One thing that this is going to be my gripe stage for a second. We talked about this while we were waiting for food as well. The lore of the Chaos Dwarves, I think, is very weak. It has some good spells, but the problem is the range overall is very small. And I think if you have a caster on foot, I mean, he's very vulnerable for one. So you either need to put him in a unit, which is fine, but then 18 inches and flame templates are not great distance-wise. So I think that the lore is very good on a Lamasu, but again, it's a Lamasu, and that's a quarter of your army plus in that one model. And a bolt thrower can still do it.
He's vulnerable in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think really, and this is just my personal opinion. I think Chaos Dwarves are really an army where they have got a couple things going for them. They've got two, possibly three banners that are very good: Shroud of Obscurity, Banner of Sneakiness, and then Earthshakers. But other than that, it's just they're kind of dwarves with no handguns and a limited. They don't have cannons or anything either, and they don't have the natural army dispel. So they do have orcs, obviously. They have goblins. You have other options. I mean, I use a Shroud of Obscurity on a unit of orcs with great weapons to great effect. But most of the combos in my army were generic appendix items, right? Spell Your Shield is not special, right? Banner of Missile Protection is not special. It's not a Chaos Dwarf thing.
Well, I guess compared to regular dwarves, having access to your slaves / allies it gives you some flexibility.
It does.
And the hobgoblins give you some flexibility.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does seem for the most part they're geared towards a specific way of playing.
Yes.
And they're good at that. But yeah, it was an interesting battle, and I felt because he had so much, Nick had so much shooting that was really effective, and the Earthshakers, I kind of had to take the battle to him, or at least take it to the center, which mostly was not very effective.
No.
So
no.
I was just kind of fortunate that I was able to snag the middle, the objective.
Yeah. I mean, it was the Wood Elf. I mean, it was the Elven mobility that won the game in the end, but for sure. That and ignoring terrain is just so good because you're fine, whatever, I don't care, just go through these trees. I'm trying to think if there's anything else about that. I mean, my list will be shared here, but I kind of have to always take Teclis's textbook, which is it's not a real item. It was invented for this edition, pretty much, and it's kind of a sad feeling when you're the best lore I can take is not my own lore, and I have my own lore, and it's just not great. So
it is meant. Yeah, it does seem it would just be so much better if you were on a Lamasu. But
I agree.
My army. I mean, it's a pretty standard Wood Elf army for the stuff that I've been playing recently. An amiable list. The Falconers, they were the subject of much ire after they completely dismantled Jake's undead army, killing multiple vampires, or a vampire and a necromancer. And
I actually considered you can't put a hero on a Lamasu, but Lamasus are toughness 7, so the Falcons can't hurt them.
Yep.
And then I don't know if it's possible. I think it is, but then I think you'd lose the ability to cast spells. But I could get my Lord, my Sorcerer Lord up to toughness 6. Which makes them very hard to hurt.
That vampire that got slain by Falcons was toughness 6. So.
I've heard.
But they didn't have a very good battle. I think they put 1 wound on your Wizard Lord, but
I also knew about them.
Yeah, you were ready for the Falcons.
Yeah, so. I was like, this is going to happen. I need to have the Banner of Missile Protection. I mean, if I didn't, then he might have died. That might have been it.
Yeah, it was very possible.
Instead he got Magic Blader, which forever is. I know I'm probably minority here, but Magic is very strong in Renaissance. It's just what it is. There's a lot of RNG.
It's a very key phase of the game where a lot of stuff happens or may not even happen, or
Yeah, I think, I don't know. It's just, it feels very bad when you draw 4 or 5 Winds of Magic cards and there's no Dispel, and you're just like, I'm a sitting duck. Like, I can't do anything. Personally, I don't know, maybe there should be some sort of, power / Dispel are almost the same. They're almost like
having like a second wizard, it helps a lot too,
Yeah.
because you can have like a second character with a Dispel scroll. But yeah, it's a big investment of points. I think wizards are pretty expensive.
Yeah.
So like taking a level 1 with a Dispel scroll is less than 100 points. That's like not that big of an investment, but
That's all he's going to do, though.
That is all he's going to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
Oh, I mean, he'll also let you use, like, wizard-required special cards.
Yeah, so, like, you could drain magic or...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like... Depending, like, where you want to put your points in, it's like the redundancy or another unit of whatever.
I also wish my Flock of Doom had not been naturally dispelled, because that would have
yeah.
ruined your day. I don't know if
Probably
that
would have killed my wizard.
But my dumb orc champion had somehow pilfered and been allowed to keep it by his slave masters, a Ring of Volons, and he had Flock of Doom, and he nailed the Unicorn Mage, but the natural Dispel protected him, and that would have completely changed the game. I think I would have easily won if that had happened, but C'est la vie. Natural Dispels are very good.
Yeah, it was a good battle.
Yeah, I think that's it. But yeah, very good, very close game. I think in terms of my list, there are only a couple things I'd probably tweak, but otherwise, I think I don't want to be so confident, be like, I've figured this army out, but I've put a lot of thought into this army, and I feel like it's pretty strong.
Seemed pretty tuned.
But yeah, who knows? We'll see what happens with a Lamasu or a Great Taurus or maybe some Bull Centaurs. I don't know. I'm also kind of... Casey and I discussed the idea that there's a banner of slavery which makes greenskins stubborn within 12, and there's a very dark part of me that just wants to take 200 goblins or something and just have these leadership 10 stubborn goblins sitting around that you just cannot shift. But that's a future me problem, and I really don't want to paint any more greenskins for a minute. So that's the battle talk, and now we're gonna go and play our second battle. So we'll talk to you soon. Bye.